Hey guys, PokeDan here. Over the last 20 years, the Pokemon anime has followed the journey of Ash Ketchum. During his time in the anime, Ash has encountered legendaries, lost the league multiple times, and captured a lot of Pokemon. And it's his Pokemon who I'll be focusing on in this video. Today guys, I wanted to rank every Pokemon owned by Ash from worst to best. This wasn't my original video idea. I saw Mr. Gumbreon create his version and thought it would be fun to talk about. Of course, his video will be linked in the description. Also bear in mind that when ranking these Pokemon from worst to best, it's just my overall opinion on them. The Pokemon strength doesn't really matter, it's just how much I like the Pokemon. Of course, if you disagree with my personal ranking, be sure to tell me some of your favourite Pokemon owned by Ash down in the comment section. Oh, and one more thing. I've included all Pokemon owned by Ash, including the Pokemon he released, traded away, and unofficial mons who were on his team. And because there are so many, I won't be talking about each Pokemon for very long. But with all that being said, let's get started with the video. Unpheasant. This thing was as dull as its design and it barely had a personality. Just a useless member of Ash's team if you ask me. Sorry to the fans of this Pokemon. Palpa Toad is another Pokemon owned by Ash that I really didn't like. It looks awkward, it sounds awkward, and there just wasn't much point of Ash even catching this thing. Next is Ash's Beedrill. Even though Ash owned this Pokemon for about 2 minutes, I still preferred it over some of his other captures. Another Pokemon Ash had for not too long was his Raticate. Of course, he traded it back straight away for Butterfree, but just imagine what might have been if Ash kept this thing. Boldore adds to the list of Unova Pokemon that Ash had that had barely any personality. It was pretty much as dull as a rock. Up next is Pidgeot, a Pokemon I liked. However, at points it was a bit lackluster. Snivy. I mean, it's okay, I don't love it, nor do I hate it, and I know it seems like I'm just coming for Ash's Unova team, but I promise, I don't think so low of them all. Who remembers Ash's Glalie? All puns aside, this was a cool Pokemon. However, I must say that I preferred it before it evolved. Swellow was one of Ash's key Hoenn Pokemon, and even though it had the right amount of screen time, to me it just felt like another bird Pokemon of Ash's. I'll probably get hate for putting this one so low, but next is Oshawott. I used to absolutely despise this Pokemon, but watching back the black and white anime, I gotta say, it's aight. Tauros is a Pokemon that Ash owned 30 of. And even though the Pokemon itself is awesome, because he has so many, none of them ever really felt that special. Another Kanto Pokemon of Ash's that I really liked was his Kingler. This thing barely got any screen time, but when it did, it was quite the badass. Noctowl. That's the next Pokemon I'll be talking about. I really liked how this thing was shiny, it just felt so special. However, like with Swellow, it just sometimes lacked personality. Up next, we have two of Ash's more comedic Pokemon being Gibble and Totodile. In that order too. I put these two together because they were both hilarious on screen, and maybe if either of them evolved, they'd be a bit higher up on this list. Aipom was a Pokemon that Ash traded away in the Sinnoh anime, and when this thing was on his team, it felt like it had the chance to be such an iconic character. Even still, I think it's awesome. Up next is Ash's Torkoal. This thing was quite the crybaby, but even still, I liked its personality, just like the next Pokemon, Quilava, who was quite the badass, and when it returned to evolve in the Sinnoh anime, well, that was awesome. Torracat is one of Ash's newer Pokemon, and even though I've not seen every episode it starred in, I think it has the potential to be such a memorable character, especially if it evolves. Up next is Donphan. This Pokemon was such a huge personality in the Johto and Hoenn anime, and it left quite the good impression on me. The next two Pokemon are Primeape and Butterfree, again in that order, and both of these were Pokemon that Ash quickly removed from his team back in Kanto. They both had big personalities on Ash's team and for sure would have been higher up if they'd stayed for a bit longer. One Pokemon Ash didn't get rid of was his Torterra. Even though my love for this thing started to fade as it evolved, I gotta say, I loved it as a Turtwig. So that boosted the mon higher up on this list. Noivern and Talonflame were two members of Ash's Kalos team. and even though some people couldn't care less about them, I really liked whenever they would appear on screen. Lapras is another Pokemon who didn't stick around for too long. However, when it was in the anime, it was such a unique and great member of Ash's team, even if it was only temporary. Okay, real quick, let's talk about Poipole. Even though this Pokemon was quick to leave Ash's side, when it stuck around I really liked it. It just had such a mischievous personality. Speaking of personalities, up next is Ash's Hawlucha. This Pokemon was often proud of itself, and I really liked seeing it in the anime. Gliscor, that's the next Pokemon in the ranking. When this thing was a Gligar, it was pretty weak both emotionally and strength-wise. However, after evolving, it showed just how much stronger it really was. Leavanny was pretty much the mother of Ash's Unova team, and seeing it take care of all his Pokemon made me gain so much respect for it. One of Ash's current team members is his Lycanroc, and it has such a cool personality. Because of that and how much I like it, it just had to be at a decent spot on this list. Another great Pokemon of Ash's is his Muck. This Pokemon I feel was never really utilised as much as it could have been, but whenever it appeared in the anime, it just had such a funny personality. Up next is Ash's Buizel, and oh my god, this was such a badass Pokemon. Even though it never evolved, you gotta admit, it was pretty powerful. The next two Pokemon are Rowlet and Corphish, and in that order. These guys are some of Ash's more funnier Pokemon, and because of their great appearances, I had to put them high up on this list. Another Pokemon of Ash's that I adore is his Staraptor. Most of Ash's bird Pokemon had no personality whatsoever, but with Staraptor you can't really say that. It was a cool Pokemon as well as a powerful one. One of Ash's Pokemon who to this day I'm still mad he released was his Goodra. This thing was so damn friendly, and even though it came back for the league, I would have loved to see it stay on his team. The next Pokemon of Ash's is one I feel is pretty underrated, and that is his Pignite. This Pokemon was pretty strong and had such great character development. Much like my next ranking, Squirtle. This thing started off as the leader of a rogue Squirtle gang, and after Ash captured it, we truly saw how much of a great Pokemon it was. Scraggy is another Pokemon of Ash's that I adore. I mean, ever since it hatched from an egg in the Unova anime, it had such a funny personality, and you could see just how much stronger it got throughout the series too. Up next is Ash's Bayleaf. This thing always had a hilarious personality, and it made me smile whenever it appeared on screen, and for that, it had to be at a high ranking. The highest ranking Unova Pokemon of Ash's is his Krookodile, and for good reason too. This Pokemon was so powerful, and it had good character development throughout the Unova series, and I really liked it. Up next are the rest of the Kanto starters Ash owned, being Charizard and Bulbasaur, and yes, in that order. Both of these Pokemon are iconic members of Ash's team, and even though some people like Charizard more, I gotta say, both are pretty amazing. So, 5 Pokemon left, and next is Snorlax. Even though this Pokemon hasn't had too many appearances in the anime, when I was younger I adored it anyway. It's incredibly strong and it deserves to appear more in the series. So, up next is Ash's most well-known Pokemon, and it is his Pikachu. You probably thought this thing would be at number 1, and even though I love this thing, there were just other Pokemon of Ash's that I preferred. Like the number 3 Pokemon, his Greninja. Let's be honest for a second, all of Ash's Kalos team was amazing. But Greninja was truly the star of the series. It received its own form, it was so powerful, and we can only hope to see it return in the future. Taking the silver medal this time round is Ash's Sceptile. I love this thing. So much so that it's the reason Sceptile is one of my favourite Pokemon. Ash's Sceptile received so much character development and screen time, and because of this, it was just the making of a truly amazing Pokemon. And finally, my favourite ever Pokemon owned by Ash Ketchum has to be Infernape. This Pokemon was first seen on Ash's team after being released by Paul as a Chimchar. It faced its own problems in the Sinnoh anime, and with Ash's help, it overcame almost all of them. This Pokemon is just incredible, and it was always going to be my favourite. But anyway guys, with all that being said, that pretty much wraps things up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Also, be sure to let me know some of your favourite Pokemon owned by Ash Ketchum down in the comment section. But with all that being said, for now, I've been PokeDan and you've been amazing, and I'll see you guys next time.